Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
The story starts with the shooting death of Carlos Gray. The former Green Bay Packer was gunned down in his Clay home in May. A day later, Daryl Thomas's bullet-riddled body turned up in Lipscomb.
Dan Odell joins us now from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to help sort this all out. Dan?
Well, the body found yesterday, now identified as 21-year-old Daryl Thomas of Center Point. Sheriff's deputies say he was involved in the murder of Carlos Gray on Monday night. So a killer kidnapped and killed. Now, just hours after Gray's murder, Daryl Thomas posted this on Facebook. Carlos Gray was a good dude and father. I hate his life was cut short. Straight up praying for his family.
It seems to me that in this culture, this drug culture, that they know each other. They even may call themselves friends with each other. But when a big amount of money comes along, all bets are off, and it's every man for himself. That's what it looks like.
So 2 men are dead, 4 men are in jail waiting to be formally charged tomorrow, expected to be charged with kidnapping and capital murder. Investigators are still looking for one more suspect in the kidnapping case, and they have not closed the case on the original murder. Sherry?
Well, Dan, we understand that there were 2 guys originally kidnapped and that one escaped. Where is the one person who escaped?
Well, that is a good question. We asked, and investigators have talked to that person. They have interviewed him, but they say they have more questions they need answered. They say they're not sure he told them everything he knows. Live in Jefferson County, Dan Odell, WBTM 13.
The story starts with the shooting death of Carlos Gray. The former Green Bay Packer was gunned down in his Clay home in May. A day later, Daryl Thomas's bullet-riddled body turned up in Lipscomb. Detectives say these 4 men killed Thomas because Thomas killed Gray. Today, those 4 men were in court. Sergeant Chris Sherritt testified about a man who claimed he was kidnapped by the group. But attorneys for Mizell Arbuckle and Cortez Johnson Clark argued the eyewitness did not connect their clients to the killing.
The evidence was that the only witness never mentioned Mr. Robbins' client or my client doing anything other than being present. Not that they threatened him, not that they pointed guns at him, nothing.
In fact, Thomas was found murdered 30 minutes from where he and the eyewitness were picked up in Clay.
The simple reality is our clients were not around when Mr. Thomas was killed. And there's no evidence to suggest that they knew Mr. Thomas was going to be killed.
Judge Laura Petro questioned why Arbuckle and Johnson Clark were even charged with capital murder, since they were already in handcuffs when the murder was committed.
Our clients are in custody before 11 o'clock in the morning. The shooting, the killing happened at least at 2 p.m.
Ultimately, Petro dismissed the capital murder charges against the 2 men, but allowed them to stand against Ariel Barbie and Jalen Mcintyre. Now, Arbuckle and Johnson Clark still face kidnapping charges in the case. They are set to be released on bond. Ian?
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb. We on the way to Alabama with it. Jefferson County, if you want to be specific. Now, today, I'm going to tell you a story about a person that makes it out the hood, gets a large sum of money, ends up back in the hood, reinvents theirself, and trying to do something successful, and end up murdered. Now, that person that I'm talking about is going to be a guy by the name of Carlos Gray. Now, Carlos Gray was from a city in Alabama called Pinson. He actually went to Pinson Valley High School. Now, by all accounts, it looks like he was a standout football player. And just by judging by his size, he sounded like a beast. He was 6'3", and he weighed 300 pounds. It looks like he graduated high school in 2010. And after graduating, numerous scholarships awaited him. I seen where he even committed to the University of North Carolina in 2010. He was actually ranked the 116th defensive tackle in that class. So he sounds like he was pretty much mid-level. So I'm going to say not a standout, but not a scrub either. But he wouldn't end up at North Carolina. He would end up at North Carolina State, where he would have a productive career, a career productive enough to get him a spot on the Green Bay Packers. And in 2014, he would go on to sign a 3-year deal for $1.5 million. Now, the average NFL career is, I'm going to say, around 3 to 4 years the last time I checked. But his wouldn't even be that long. He would stay in the league long enough to have a cup of coffee. I couldn't really find any stats on him during his time that he spent with the Green Bay Packers, and he was eventually released in 2015. Now, after being released, he would head back home to Pinson. And based on the research that I did, they said that he would try to reinvent himself as a party promoter, as a house flipper, as somebody that sold cars. And that drew him a lot of attention in the city. Now, he wouldn't even be home 3 years to where on April 30th, 2018, deputies would be called to a home on Balboa Terrace after a friend would find him unresponsive. Carlos Gray, who was 25 at the time, would be found with gunshot wounds. And while clearing his house, deputies would report seeing marijuana, digital scales, a Glock handgun with an extended magazine, and an AK rifle, all in plain view. Investigators would later report that Carlos Gray had reportedly been bragging about large amounts of money and drugs that led him to be killed during the course of a robbery. Now, early on in the investigation, authorities would begin to suspect a guy by the name of Daryl Thomas to be responsible for it. So with that information, they would go on to speak to one of Carlos Gray's close associates, a guy by the name of Jalen Mcintyre. And at the time, Jalen Mcintyre didn't have much to say to authorities besides it would work itself out. On the very next day, May 1st, 2018, a man would call authorities saying he had been kidnapped by a group of men, but he had somehow escaped. So supposedly the unidentified man as well as Daryl Thomas were good friends with Carlos Gray. And according to him, he's going to say that Jalen Mcintyre gave him a call and wanted to know how come he wasn't at the scene of the murder with family and friends of Carlos Gray celebrating his life. Not sure the course of the conversation, but it ended with Jalen Mcintyre letting the unidentified man know that he was going to come and speak to him. He would go on to say that a short time later that 3 cars would arrive to his apartment complex on the east side of Jefferson County. A Chevrolet Avalanche, a Dodge Charger, and an Infiniti. Now, according to this gentleman, he's going to say that he would come outside and immediately would be forced at gunpoint in the Avalanche by Jalen Mcintyre. Now, he would go on to allege that when he was forced inside of the Avalanche, he saw a guy by the name of Ariel Barbie, who by reports was the half-brother of the deceased Carlos Gray. Now, according to this witness, Daryl Thomas would arrive a short time later where he would be forced to go through his car and then forced into the Avalanche. They're going to say that Thomas was sitting in the back seat with McIntyre and the unidentified suspect, while the kidnapping victim was placed in the front seat with Barbie while Barbie was driving. And according to reports, for him, this is when fight or flight kicked in because he was able to get out that car and run to a gas station where he would call police. While being questioned by police, he would see the same Infiniti that was at the scene of the kidnappings, and he would point it out to authorities. Authorities would proceed to stop the car, and they would find 2 gentlemen inside, Marzell Arbuckle and Cortez Johnson Clark. Now, whether they know it or not, that was probably one of the luckiest things that happened to them in their lives, because an hour later, authorities would find a bullet-riddled body of Daryl Clark in an isolated area in the neighborhood of Linscomb. All 4 men would end up being charged with capital murder. But here's the kicker. The charges against Marzell Arbuckle and Cortez Johnson Clark would end up being dropped because the judge determined that they didn't have enough probable cause to tie them to the murder, even though they would end up still being charged with the kidnapping, which I don't know if that's a lucky day, because kidnapping and murder almost the same exact charge, but I mean, that definitely beats a kidnapping and a murder. But y'all let me know what y'all think. If this is not a crazy case or not, y'all get in the comment box below. Flood that bitch. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. I'm going to be back with some more real trill spill shit. And y'all already know what it is. Mobb, mob, mob.